What if one of the most important health problems in the modern world was happening inside your body right now, without you feeling a thing? No pain, no warning, no obvious symptoms. Yet, silently, this hidden metabolic problem is increasing your risk for type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, and even dementia. It's called insulin resistance. And today, we're shrinking down to the microscopic level to see exactly what happens inside your cells when the vital hormone insulin stops working the way it should. First, let's bust a common myth. Insulin is often painted as the villain behind weight gain, but insulin is not the enemy. In fact, it's a vital hormone keeping you alive. Every time you eat carbohydrates, your digestive system breaks them down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas senses this and releases insulin. Think of insulin as an energy traffic controller. Its primary job is to help that glucose leave the bloodstream and enter your cells, where it can be used for energy. When insulin works properly, your blood sugar stays within a healthy range, and your body gets the fuel it needs to thrive. So let's zoom inside a healthy muscle cell. What does this process look like? Insulin travels through your blood and arrives at the cell's surface, where it binds to an insulin receptor, like a key fitting into a lock. This connection triggers a cascade of signals deep inside the cell. The cell gets the message and responds by moving special proteins called GLUT4 transporters up to its membrane. These transporters are essentially doorways for glucose. Once they are in place, they open up, allowing glucose to move from the bloodstream into the cell. Inside, that glucose is converted into energy. Fuel is delivered successfully. Everything works beautifully. Now, let's fast forward years. Imagine an accumulation of certain lifestyle patterns, a consistent surplus of calories, physical inactivity, chronic poor sleep, and unrelenting stress. Genetics can play a role too. All of these factors, especially when combined with an increase in visceral fat around your organs, begin to change your cellular metabolism. The clear insulin signal starts to become weaker. The cell responds less efficiently. It's as if insulin is knocking on the door, but the person inside is growing hard of hearing. Scientists compare it to hearing the same alarm daily. Eventually, the response becomes blunted. The signal gets ignored. But your body is incredibly resilient. At first, it compensates brilliantly. As the cells become more resistant, your pancreas senses that glucose isn't clearing from the blood as quickly, so it shouts louder by releasing more insulin. The result? For a long time, your blood sugar may look completely normal on a standard test. Many people live with insulin resistance for years with normal glucose levels. But behind the scenes, a battle is raging. Insulin levels are rising higher and higher. This is the critical hidden phase. Normal sugar, but abnormally high insulin. Let's revisit that visceral fat. This isn't the soft fat under your skin. This is the deep internal fat surrounding your organs, like the liver and intestines. Visceral fat is a primary driver of insulin resistance because it doesn't just sit there. It behaves like an active rogue endocrine organ. It constantly releases a flood of inflammatory molecules and chemical signals into your bloodstream. These signals travel throughout the body and directly interfere with insulin's ability to do its job, making cells even more resistant. This creates a destructive, vicious cycle. More resistance signals the body to store more visceral fat. The increased fat then releases more inflammatory signals, worsening the resistance. It's a self-perpetuating metabolic loop. The liver, a central hub for metabolism, is often one of the first organs affected. In a healthy body, insulin acts as a brake, telling the liver to stop producing its own glucose after a meal. But in a state of insulin resistance, the liver becomes deaf to this signal. It may continue pumping out glucose even when blood sugar is already high. It's like a factory that won't shut down. At the same time, with excess energy circulating, the liver starts storing calories as fat droplets inside its own cells. This leads to a condition known as metabolic dysfunction-associated fatty liver disease, turning a healthy organ into an overloaded and dysfunctional one. For years, the pancreas can keep up this fight, pumping out more and more insulin. But this heroic effort can't last forever. The insulin-producing beta cells can become exhausted from being overworked. Eventually, their production may decline. It's at this point that the system finally fails. The amount of insulin is no longer enough to overcome the profound resistance in the cells. For the first time, blood sugar begins to rise above the normal range. This is when a diagnosis of prediabetes and eventually type 2 diabetes is often made. But what's critical to understand is that the diagnosis isn't the beginning of the problem. The disease process began years earlier in the silent phase of high insulin. This might sound bleak, but here is the most important part of the story. The encouraging news is that insulin resistance is not a one-way street. The condition is often highly responsive to lifestyle changes. Your cells can relearn how to listen. Regular physical activity builds metabolically active muscle that soaks up sugar from the blood. Weight loss, especially reducing harmful visceral fat, quiets inflammatory signals. Quality sleep and a whole foods diet can fundamentally stabilize your metabolic health. So, what is insulin resistance? It's not just high blood sugar, it's a breakdown in communication. It's a story where the pancreas works overtime and the liver gets overloaded. But this story doesn't have a fixed ending. Insulin resistance isn't your destiny, it's your biology. And you have influence over that biology. Because every workout, every healthy meal, every restful night sends a powerful new signal to your cells. They are listening. The question is, what signals are they receiving right now?